In the heart of Princeton Plainsboro Teaching Hospital, the emergency room buzzed with the usual frenzy of beeping monitors, hurried footsteps, and the sharp scent of antiseptic. Dr. Gregory House limped through the double doors, his cane tapping rhythmically against the linoleum floor like a metronome of disdain. His piercing blue eyes scanned the chaos, lips curling into a familiar smirk. Another day, another parade of hypochondriacs who think Googling symptoms makes them board certified, he grumbled under his breath, popping a Vicodin from his pocket with practiced ease. His team trailed behind him like reluctant shadows. Dr. Eric Foreman, the no-nonsense neurologist with a chip on his shoulder. Dr. Allison Cameron, the empathetic immunologist, whose idealism often clashed with House's cynicism. And Dr. Robert Chase, the sharp-tongued intensivist from Australia, always ready with a witty retort. The case that had pulled them in was Elena Vasquez, a 28-year-old painter from the vibrant art scene of New York City. She'd been rushed in after collapsing dramatically at her own gallery opening the night before. Witnesses described her stumbling mid-speech, her hands shaking uncontrollably as she clutched at a canvas smeared with bold, swirling colors. By the time paramedics arrived, she was barely coherent, her speech slurred, like someone who'd had one too many drinks, and her skin had taken on an unnatural yellowish tint jaundice, clear as day. Her eyes, wide with confusion, were sclera-tinged and bloodshot. House approached the bed where Elena lay, hooked up to IV lines and monitors that charted her erratic vitals. She was petite, with dark hair matted against her forehead, and paint stains still visible under her fingernails. "So what's the story, Morning Glory?" House quipped, not bothering to lower his voice. "Let me guess. You decided to celebrate your big night with a bottle of cheap tequila and some questionable street food?" Elena tried to respond, but her words came out garbled, a mix of English and what sounded like Spanish fragments. "No, I don't drink much, just tired. The lights, spinning." She winced, her hands trembling as she reached for the bedsheet. Foreman flipped through her chart efficiently. Admitted with acute onset tremors, dysarthria, and icterus. No fever, no obvious trauma. Blood pressure's stable, but liver enzymes are through the roof, ALT and AST in the thousands. Cameron leaned in, her voice soft and concerned. "She's an artist. Maybe exposure to toxins, paints, solvents. Those could cause hepatic issues." Chase nodded, crossing his arms. "Or viral hepatitis. Gallery opening lots of people, shared glasses. Hep A from contaminated food isn't out of the question." House rolled his eyes dramatically, leaning on his cane. "Oh, please. If it were that simple, the ER docs would have handled it, and we'd be back to our regularly scheduled boredom. It's probably just bad takeout some undercooked falafel, giving her a liver tantrum." He snatched the chart from Foreman and scanned it. Initial blood tests had already come back. Negative for hepatitis A, B, and C. No signs of common toxins like acetaminophen overdose. "All right, geniuses, brainstorm. Alcohol abuse? She's an artist bohemian lifestyle, drowning sorrows in absinthe?" Foreman shook his head. "No history of that in her records. Family says she's clean living, focused on her work. Autoimmune? Lupus?" Cameron suggested, her brow furrowed. House snorted. "It's never lupus. Or maybe she's faking it for the attention. Collapsing at your own show? That's performance art at its finest." He turned to Elena, who was now drifting in and out of consciousness. "Hey, Picasso, you pulling a stunt to boost sales?" But as the team worked to stabilize her administering fluids, running more labs, Cameron paused during her examination. She shone a light into Elena's eyes, checking pupillary response. There, encircling the edge of her irises, was a faint golden-brown ring, almost like a halo of rust. "Wait, Kaiser Fleischer rings?" she murmured, more to herself than the others. House's interest piqued for the first time. He hobbled closer, peering in. Well, well, copper deposits. That's not your everyday hepatitis souvenir. Chase raised an eyebrow. Wilson's disease? But she's 28 onset is usually in adolescence. Usually, House echoed mockingly. But medicine's full of unusuals. That's why they pay us the big bucks. He straightened up, a glint of excitement in his eyes. Run ceruloplasmin levels, urine copper, the works. And get a full history. Everyone lies. But let's see what secrets our fading artist is hiding. As the team dispersed to order tests, Elena's tremors intensified, her body jerking involuntarily. She muttered something about colors fading, her art slipping away. House watched from the doorway, popping another pill. This wasn't just another case, it was a puzzle, and he lived for the unraveling. The hospital lights hummed overhead, casting long shadows, as the mystery of Elena Vasquez began to unfold, hinting at a rare genetic foe lurking in her veins. The ER continued its relentless pace around them, but for House and his team, the real drama was just beginning. Elena's jaundice deepened, her speech grew more fragmented, and the golden rings in her eyes seemed to glow like omens. Foreman coordinated with radiology for an urgent scan, while Cameron comforted Elena's worried brother, who had arrived disheveled from the city. She was fine last week, he insisted, just working non-stop on her exhibit. She's always been healthy, maybe a little clumsy lately, dropping brushes, but nothing like this. House eavesdropped from afar, his mind racing through differentials. Wilson's disease fit the bill, a genetic disorder where the body couldn't process copper, leading to toxic buildup in the liver, brain, and eyes. It was rare, affecting about 1 in 30,000 people, often misdiagnosed as psychiatric issues or other liver diseases. But why now? What triggered the collapse? He smirked to himself. Perhaps her paints contained copper pigments, slowly poisoning her over years of exposure. Or maybe a family secret, buried in denial. As night fell, the initial labs trickled in. Low ceruloplasmin, elevated serum copper. Not definitive, but pointing arrows. "It's Wilson's," Cameron said confidently in the hallway huddle. House shook his head. "Not yet. We need more. And remember, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a zebra in disguise." He limped away, leaving them to ponder. Elena stabilized slightly with supportive care, but her condition hung by a thread, a canvas waiting for the next brushstroke of diagnosis. In the quiet moments, Cameron sat by her bedside. "Your paintings, I've seen photos online. They're beautiful, full of life." Elena managed a weak smile. "Colors, they're everything. Don't let them fade." The team reconvened, debates heating up. "If it's Wilson's, we start chelation therapy," Foreman argued. "Or it's something else, environmental toxin mimicking it," Chase countered. House interrupted, bursting in. "Boring. Let's prove it. Break into her studio if we have to. Find the source." Ethics be damned. The hunt was on. As the clock ticked, Elena's fate balanced on the edge of discovery, in a hospital where genius and sarcasm collided to chase the truth. The diagnostics conference room at Princeton Plainsboro was a sterile sanctuary of whiteboards, scattered files, and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Dr. House slouched in his chair at the head of the table, twirling a marker between his fingers like a baton, while his team settled in with coffee mugs and notepads. The air was thick with tension, the kind that came from a case that refused to fit neatly into any textbook box. Elena Vasquez's file lay open in the center, her photo staring back, a vibrant woman now reduced to a list of symptoms: tremors, jaundice, slurred speech, and those enigmatic golden rings in her eyes. "All right, ducklings," House drawled, his voice laced with sarcasm. "Let's play differential diagnosis. What's killing our Picasso wannabe?" Cameron leaned forward, her eyes bright with conviction. "The Kaiser Fleischer rings are a dead giveaway. They're copper deposits in the cornea, classic for Wilson's disease. It's a genetic disorder where the liver can't excrete copper properly, leading to buildup in organs." Foreman crossed his arms, skeptical as ever. "Possible, but she's 28. Wilson's usually hits in the teens or early 20s. Late onset is rare, and her symptoms could overlap with a dozen other things." Chase nodded, flipping through lab results. "Agreed. She's a painter constant exposure to solvents like turpentine or cadmium pigments. That could cause toxic liver failure, mimicking metabolic issues. Or maybe alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, given the jaundice." House stopped doodling a crude sketch of a liver, with devil horns and slammed the marker down. "Boring. All of you. If it were solvents, she'd have respiratory issues too, not just a liver tantrum. And alpha-1. Please, that's the diagnostic equivalent of blaming the butler." He stood, limping to the whiteboard and scrawling "Wilson's" in bold letters. "But let's humor Cameron's girl crush on rare diseases. Run serum copper, ceruloplasmin, and 24-hour urine copper. If it's Wilson's, levels will be off the charts." The team exchanged glances. Foreman spoke up. "We already have preliminary blood scoppers elevated, but not astronomically. Ceruloplasmin is low, though," Cameron added, "and no family history in the records. Wilson's is autosomal recessive. There should be something." House smirked, popping a Vicodin. "Everyone lies, families especially. Dig deeper. Call relatives, snoop if you have to." Ignoring the ethical sidelong looks, he continued, "In the meantime, let's think big. Break into her apartment. See if she's got a stash of copper jewelry or something equally idiotic." Chase chuckled, despite himself. "You can't be serious. That's illegal." House raised an eyebrow. "So is dying from misdiagnosis." "Foreman, you're on biopsy duty liver sample to confirm cirrhosis or copper storage." As the meeting wrapped, a nurse burst in, breathless. "Dr. House, the patient, she's hallucinating, talking about colors melting off walls." The team rushed to Elena's room. She thrashed weakly in her bed, eyes wild. "The blues. They're turning red. Eating the canvas," she mumbled, her hands clawing at invisible paints. Cameron administered a sedative, while Foreman checked vitals. "Neurological involvement. If it's Wilson's, coppers, hitting the brain basal ganglia damage, causing the tremors, and now psychosis." House watched from the foot of the bed, his expression a mix of intrigue and annoyance. "Or it's hepatic encephalopathy from liver failure, ammonia buildup making her loopy. Treat with lactulose, IV fluids. But if it's Wilson's, why no earlier signs? She's been painting for years. Maybe the pigments are accelerating it." Chase suggested copper-based paints, verdigris or something antique. House nodded slowly. "Possible. Get samples from her studio. Legally, if you must." Back in the conference room, the puzzle pieces scattered. Blood work confirmed elevated copper, but genetic screening for the ATP7B mutation was pending. Elena's condition stabilized temporarily, but the hallucinations lingered, a haunting reminder that time was slipping. Foreman argued for autoimmune hepatitis tests. Cameron pushed for Wilson's confirmation, and Chase floated heavy metal poisoning from art supplies. House paced, cane thumping. It's Wilson's until proven otherwise. But something's off no family tree of crazies. Dig into her background. Immigrants from Spain, maybe a carrier population. As evening fell, the liver biopsy results trickled in. Copper accumulation in hepatocytes, but not overwhelming. Borderline, Foreman said. Could be secondary to something else. Elena's brother arrived, fidgety, in the waiting area. Cameron questioned him gently. Any relatives with liver problems, neurological issues? He hesitated. Our aunt. She was eccentric, institutionalized young, but no diagnosis. House eavesdropped from afar. Bingo. Hidden history. The sarcasm masked his growing fascination. This wasn't just a disease. It was a family secret unraveling. The team treated symptomatically. Zinc to block copper absorption, monitoring closely. But as Elena's hallucinations intensified, the differential widened. Was it really Wilson's, or a zebra in disguise? House popped another pill, staring at the whiteboard. The hunt deepened, ethics blurred, and the artist's world faded into medical enigma. Elena's hallucinations grew more vivid and disturbing, transforming her hospital room into a surreal gallery of melting hues. She bolted upright in bed, eyes glazed, pointing at the blank walls. The colors, they're bleeding, reds devouring the blues, like fire on ice, she cried, her voice a mix of terror and artistic passion. Chase, monitoring her IV, exchanged a worried glance with Cameron. Is this artistic delirium or straight-up neurological damage from copper toxicity? He muttered, adjusting her restraints gently. Foreman entered, holding fresh imaging results. MRIs back. Basal ganglia show hyperintensities classic for Wilson's disease. The coppers frying her motor control centers. House, who had been lurking in the doorway like a shadow with a cane, snatched the films and held them to the light. Finally, something interesting. Order a full neuro workup. If it's Wilson's, we hit her with penicillaminoculate, that copper out. But as the team huddled, genetic tests rolled in from the lab, negative for the common ATP70 gene mutation. Cameron frowned at the report. Inconclusive? She doesn't have the typical defect. House tossed the papers aside with a scoff. Bull. Genetics don't lie, but people do. Everyone hides their skeletons, especially the copper-plated ones. He limped out, barking orders. Chase, Cameron interrogate the brother. Foreman, start low-dose chelation anyway. Let's see if she perks up or crashes. In the family waiting area, Elena's brother, Marco, paced nervously, his hands stained with faint paint specks from helping her move canvases. Cameron approached with her trademark empathy. Marco, we need more on your family history. Any relatives with similar symptoms? Tremors, mental health issues? Marco hesitated, rubbing his temples. Look, our family, we don't talk about it. Abuela always said Tia Rosa was touched by madness. She died young, in an asylum. Liver problems, they said, but no one dug deeper. We thought it was just bad luck, Chase pressed. And your parents? Siblings? Marco sighed, defeated. Dad had shaky hands late in life, blamed it on age. But Elena, she's the artist, always sensitive. Maybe it's genetic. Back in the conference room, House grilled the team with the new intel. Hidden madness, undiagnosed Wilson's running rampant in the family tree. Start treatment full throttle, penicillamine and zinc. Flush that metal out. But hours into therapy, alarms blared from Elena's room. Her urine output dropped sharply. kidneys failing under the strain. Foreman rushed in, ordering dialysis. Chelation's backfiring rare side effect, but her kidneys are tanking. We're missing something. Cameron nodded frantically. Proteinuria's spiking. Maybe an allergic reaction? House smirked from the observation window, popping a Vicodin. Or maybe it's not Wilson's at all. Let's think outside the copper box. Retest genetics, look for variants, not just the textbook mutation. The lab scrambled, sequencing deeper. As Elena was wheeled to dialysis, her hallucinations persisted. Whispers of canvases coming alive, brushes turning to serpents. The team debated fiercely. Could be porphyria, Chase suggested. Presence with neurosymptoms. Abdominal pain, Hoshi hasn't complained. Foreman shook his head. No porphyrins in urine. Stick to facts, Cameron added, or heavy metal from paints exacerbating a mild genetic predisposition. House paced, Kane echoing. Boring. Dig into a heritage, Spanish roots? Mediterranean basin has higher Wilson's variants. A breakthrough pinged on the computer. A rare ATP7B variant mutation, documented in recent European studies, prevalent in Iberian populations. Jackpot, House announced, slamming his cane. It's Wilson's 2.0 late onset, sneaky presentation. Treatment adjusted, slower chelation, supportive renal care. Elena's kidneys stabilized, but the neurological storm raged on. Marco confessed more. Family avoided doctors, fearing stigma. We thought it was curse, not disease. As night deepened, House stared at Elena's chart, the puzzle clicking. The artist's colors might return, but the twist revealed medicine's shadows, secrets, variants, and the fine line between genius and madness. The team watched her vital signs steady, a fragile hope amid the enigma. As Elena's vital signs flickered on the monitors, a fragile stability masking the storm within, the diagnostics conference room erupted into chaos. Her organs were faltering, liver enzymes spiking again, kidneys straining under the adjusted chelation therapy. The team clashed like never before, voices rising over the hum of the hospital's night shift. Cameron stood firm, her face flushed with frustration. She's not just a case file, House. Elena's an artist. She's losing her vision, her ability to create. We need to consider the human side here. House rolled his eyes dramatically, leaning heavily on his cane as he popped another Vicodin. Oh, spare me the Hallmark card sentiment. If we don't fix her plumbing, she won't be painting stick figures, let alone masterpieces. Empathy won't chelate copper. Foreman, ever the pragmatist, slammed a fist on the table. Cameron's right on one thing, we're pushing too hard. Penicillamine's causing renal toxicity. We need to dial it back, combine with zinc to block further absorption without overwhelming her system. Chase nodded, reviewing the latest labs. And add tetrathiomolybdate. If we can get it, it's gentler for acute cases. House paced slowly, his limp accentuating each step. Fine, tweak the cocktail. But we're missing the trigger. Why now? She's been marinating in copper for years. The breakthrough struck like a bolt. House demanded photos of Elena's paintings, pulled from her gallery's website. He spread printouts across the table, abstract swirls dominated by eerie, unnatural greens and blues, colors that screamed synthetic pigments. Look at this verdigris green, straight from copper acetate. She's been inhaling and absorbing it through her skin for a decade, self-poisoning for the sake of art. The team stared, stunned. Cameron whispered, "That's tragic. Her passion's killing her." Foreman frowned. "Exacerbating the Wilsons, yeah. But is it reportable? Occupational hazard or negligence? Ethical debates ignited? Notify OSHA? Warn other artists? House waved it off with a smirk. We're doctors, not cops. Focus on the patient. If she stabilizes, we educate her, not indict. They adjusted the therapy, lower dose penicillamine, zinc supplements, and strict monitoring. Elena's tremors began to ease, her jaundice fading slightly as copper levels dipped. But as dawn broke, a final symptom reared its head, psychiatric episodes exploding into full view. She screamed in her room, convinced shadows were critics tearing her work apart, her mind fracturing like shattered glass. It's mimicking schizophrenia, Chase diagnosed, citing literature on Wilson's neuropsychiatric variants, copper in the brain dopamine dysregulation. Cameron advocated for antipsychotics alongside chelation, while Foreman pushed for a psych consult. House, watching from afar, quipped, "Great, now she's got voices telling her to paint in blood. Treat the source, not the symphony." The confrontation peaked when Elena's brother confronted the team. "You're experimenting on her. She was fine until you started this." House faced him down. "Fine? She was a ticking bomb. Your family's denial lit the fuse." Tensions simmered as treatment progressed, Eleanor's episodes waning with targeted meds. The hospital corridors echoed with their arguments, but slowly hope emerged, her hands steadied enough to sketch on a notepad, colors returning to her world. Yet the ethical scars lingered, a reminder that saving a life often meant confronting the darkness within. As the days blurred into weeks in the sterile confines of Princeton Plainsboro, Eleanor's body began to respond to the refined treatment regimen. Copper levels in her blood plummeted under the steady assault of penicillamine and zinc, her liver enzymes creeping back toward normalcy like a retreating tide. The jaundice that had painted her skin a sickly yellow faded to a pale echo, and the tremors that once betrayed her every movement steadied into mere whispers. Her psychiatric episodes, those haunting dives into a fractured reality where canvases screamed and colors waged war, dissolved with the addition of low-dose antipsychotics, revealing the woman beneath the chaos, the artist reclaiming her palette. House's team monitored her obsessively, Foreman charting labs with military precision, Cameron offering quiet encouragement during bedside visits, and Chase handling the procedural minutiae with his unflappable Aussie calm. Ethical debates simmered down as results spoke louder than arguments. The self-poisoning from copper pigments was noted in her chart, a warning for future artists, but no authorities were called. House's pragmatic cynicism won out. "We're healers, not whistleblowers," he quipped during rounds, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of satisfaction at the puzzle's resolution. Eleanor, emerging from the fog, sketched tentatively on hospital notepads, her lines growing bolder with each passing day. "The colors, they're coming back," she whispered to Cameron one afternoon, a tear tracing her cheek. "I thought I'd lost them forever." Discharge day arrived like a long-awaited dawn. Eleanor stood in her room, dressed in street clothes, a small bag of medications at her feet. Marco hugged her tightly, gratitude etched on his face. "Thanks to you all," he said to the team. "She gets a second chance." House limped in last, cane tapping a reluctant rhythm. He eyed Eleanor with his trademark sarcasm. "Don't go huffing paint fumes anymore. And if you do, at least make it abstract expressionism worth the hospital bill." She laughed weakly, extending a hand. "Thank you, Doctor, for seeing what others missed." He shook it briefly, then turned to his team in a rare, unguarded moment. "We saved her, ducklings, but life's still a crapshoot. Genetics, pigments, whatever. One wrong brush stroke, and boom, past the Vicodin. As Elena walked out, arm in arm with her brother, the hospital returned to its relentless pulse. Back in the conference room, the whiteboard was erased, ready for the next enigma. Foreman mused aloud, real cases like this, Wilson's masquerading as psych disorders, are in every journal. Misdiagnosed for years sometimes. Cameron nodded. It took tenacity. And a bit of rule-breaking. Chase smirked. House's specialty. House, staring out the window at the parking lot where Elena's cab pulled away, felt a twinge-knot pain from his leg, but something deeper. Medicine's mysteries often hid in plain sight, genetic foes lurking in bloodlines, environmental triggers in everyday passions. He popped a pill, limping toward the elevator. The hunt never ended. Another patient, another puzzle awaited. In the end, Elena returned to her New York studio, canvas before her. Aware now of the copper curse in her veins, she painted with safer pigments, her art infused with newfound depth, a testament to survival. And somewhere in the hospital's shadows, House prepared for the next case, proving that brilliance, laced with bitterness, could illuminate even the darkest diagnostic paths.